Inside, in the basement, they found Edward's lantern on the floor. Next to it, a bloody handprint on the wall. But his body was nowhere to be found. Only one message was scratched into the brick with something sharp: "Set me free." They say every village in England has one house that no one dares to enter. In the quiet countryside of North Yorkshire, that house was called Black Manor, a vast, crumbling estate that stood alone at the edge of the woods. For decades, it had been abandoned, locked away behind rusted iron gates and tangled vines. But no matter how long it stayed empty, the villagers swore they could still see a faint light in the windows and hear a woman's laughter echo through the night. In 1998, a schoolteacher named Edward Clarke moved into the manor with his wife Margaret and their teenage daughter Emily. They had come from London, tired of city life, looking for peace and space. The rent was unbelievably cheap, and the owner, an old estate agent, warned them only once: don't wander into the basement after dark. Some things are better left alone. Edward laughed it off. He was a man of logic, calm, practical, never the one to believe in village ghost stories. He brushed away the warning, signed the papers, and moved in with his family. But from the very first night, something felt off. The house smelled of damp wood and old secrets. The wind whistled through cracks in the walls. Emily, their daughter, claimed she heard someone humming outside her bedroom. An old tune, soft and broken, like a lullaby. Her parents dismissed it as imagination, but the next morning, the kitchen smelled like burnt candles and rotting flowers. And on the wall near the staircase, someone had drawn a faint circle with ashes, like a ritual mark. By the third night, the sounds grew clearer. Footsteps in the hallway, a door slamming on its own. Once, Margaret woke up to the sound of dripping water. But when she checked the tap, it was dry. The noise was coming from the attic. Edward climbed up with a flashlight. He found nothing but dust, cobwebs, and an old wooden chest. On top of it lay a photograph of a woman, her face pale, her eyes dark and hollow. At the bottom, someone had written in faded ink, "Eleanor Hartley, 1927. Edward showed it to Margaret, joking that it was probably some former owner's family photo. But that night, the picture moved. He had placed it on the fireplace mantel, and by morning, it was lying beside his bed. The next few days turned strange. Doors would open and close on their own. Margaret started finding her belongings in different places. And Emily, she began to change. She stopped talking, stopped eating, and would often sit for hours by the window, staring into the woods. When her mother asked what she was looking at, Emily said in a whisper, "She's there again, the woman in white. She keeps calling my name." Margaret grew terrified. Edward still refused to believe in ghosts. He called a local priest, Father Malcolm, to bless the house. The priest came with holy water, candles, and a trembling voice. But the moment he stepped into the living room, his candle blew out. He dropped it, his face turning pale. "There's something here," he whispered. "Something that died in pain." That night, the house screamed. The sound came from the basement, a deep, metallic noise, like chains dragging on stone. Edward grabbed a lantern and went down, against his wife's pleading. The air was cold and heavy, thick with the smell of earth. The steps creaked beneath him. When his light hit the far wall, he froze. There were handprints on the bricks, long and smeared, as if someone had tried to claw their way out. And at the center of the room stood an old mirror covered with dust. He wiped it with his sleeve, and for a second, he thought he saw someone standing behind him. But when he turned around, there was no one. He came upstairs, pale and shaking. That was the first time Margaret saw fear in his eyes. Days passed. Edward started having nightmares of a woman screaming, begging for help. He'd wake up drenched in sweat, his throat dry, the sound of footsteps fading in the hallway. Sometimes, he would find long black strands of hair on his pillow, though his wife was blonde and his daughter had short curls. At breakfast, Emily sat silently, her lips moving as if repeating someone else's words. One morning, Margaret found a note on the kitchen table, written in red ink, or maybe blood. It said, "I never left." That night, she demanded they leave. Edward agreed, finally. He packed a few boxes and went down to the basement to shut off the main power switch. He never came back. When the police arrived, they found the house empty. Margaret was outside, screaming. Emily sat on the grass, staring blankly at the house, humming that same broken lullaby. Inside, in the basement, they found Edward's lantern on the floor. Next to it, a bloody handprint on the wall. But his body was nowhere to be found. Only one message was scratched into the brick, with something sharp: "Set me free." For weeks, Margaret stayed with relatives in another town. Emily was taken to a hospital. The doctors said she was in shock, but one night around 3 a.m., she woke up screaming. The nurses rushed in, and she kept repeating one line: "She's in the mirror. She's looking at me." The next morning, Emily was gone. The security cameras showed nothing but static from midnight till dawn. No one saw her leave. All that was left on her hospital bed was a small photograph, the same old picture of Eleanor Hartley, the woman from the manor. Years passed. The house was sealed off, but locals still spoke about it, about strange lights, whispers in the woods, and a woman's laughter echoing from the old windows. In 2005, a new couple bought the property, planning to restore it. They hired workers to clean the basement. One of them, a man named John, came running out screaming after 10 minutes. He said there was a body inside the wall, a skeleton, still wearing a woman's dress. The police confirmed it later. It was Eleanor Hartley, missing since 1927. The report said she'd been bricked alive inside the manor by her abusive husband. But that wasn't the end. When they removed the skeleton, the workers noticed something else on the wall. Fresh words, carved deep into the stone, though no one had been inside for years. It said, "She's not me." Since then, no one has lived in Black Manor. Even the restoration crew refused to go back. The house stands empty, yet every stormy night, neighbors say they see a light flicker in the top window. Sometimes, if the wind is right, you can hear someone humming the same broken lullaby that Emily once sang. They say if you call out her name, Eleanor, you'll hear another voice whisper back, "You shouldn't have woken me." Even today, the locals avoid that road after sunset. They cross themselves when they pass the gate. And some claim that on quiet nights, you can still see a woman's reflection in the window, wearing a white dress, staring back at you, even when no one's inside. Because some houses never die. They just remember.